Hi, I'm Chad with Move for Guitar. This lesson is from our series Music Theory for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about close position 7th chords. First off, if you like the diagrams for everything in this series, including the diagrams for this lesson, you can download our free e-guide, Music Theory for Guitar. And this e-guide will be something that you can study and use as a reference for years to come. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to just go download it. But I am working on it as I'm filming this lesson, so if it's available, a link will pop up on the screen that will allow you to download it. If no link appears, you can look in the description and it'll say whether it's available or coming soon. And if it's not available yet, you can sign up for our mailing list and we'll send you a copy as soon as it is available. Also, if you're signed up for our mailing list, you'll receive all updated versions as well. But don't worry, you don't need the e-guide to follow along with this lesson because all of the charts will be on the screen. And also be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day. This is part 3.3 from our series Music Theory for Guitar. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. Now that you know how to build 7th chords, I'm going to show you how they lie on the fretboard in close position. And unlike triads in close position, 7th chords in close position have a lot of really difficult grips. And actually a lot of them are impossible for a lot of players because you'd have to have really big hands, really long fingers to make the stretches that a lot of these have. But there are some really useful close position 7th chords to learn that will come in handy, and even the ones that you can't play as a chord, they're really important to be able to visualize, and it's something you'll use when you get into soloing as well. So even if you can't play all of these, it's important to at least understand how they lie on the fretboard and be able to visualize them. So we're going to start with the major 7th chord in close position, and if you watched the lesson about triads in close position, it's the exact same concept. We're just putting the intervals as close as possible, and they'll be on 4 adjacent strings this time instead of 3 adjacent strings. Since triads have 3 notes, 7th chords have 4 notes, so it has to span 4 strings. So as you know, a major 7th is a root, major 3rd, perfect 5th, major 7th. That means we're going to take the major 3rd, put it onto this unison note, take the perfect 5th, put it onto this unison note, take the major 7th, put it onto this unison note. And that's a close position major 7th chord in root position starting on the 6th string. And as you'll notice, all you've done is you've taken a major triad in close position and added the 7th on the next string. And then again, just like with triads, you can look at them as a major 3rd interval and then stacking a minor 3rd interval and then stacking another major 3rd interval. And then from root to the 5th is obviously a perfect 5th, and from root to the 7th is a major 7th. And then you can bring these through all the string sets, so if you bring it down to the next set of strings, you're going to hit that 2nd string, so the note that hits the 2nd string has to move up a fret, and this is the shape on that string. And this is a really common chord. This is a really common shape that a lot of people will use, and you'll probably use as well. So this is one of the close position 7th chords that is actually a really useful chord grip. Then we go down to the next set of strings. Now the 5th is hitting the 2nd string, so that needs to move up. And this again is another really useful chord grip. And the major 7ths have easier stretches because the intervals are closer together. Once we get into the other chord types, the intervals start becoming farther apart, so you end up with bigger stretches. And again, hopefully you notice it's the exact same thing through each string set, that you're just taking a major triad in close position and adding the 7th on the next string. And since this is a major 7th chord, you're adding the major 7th interval. So now we can do the same thing with the dominant 7th. We'll just move the 3rd, the 5th, and this time the flat 7 to adjacent strings, and this is the shape you end up with. So this is a close position dominant 7th chord in root position starting on the 6th string. Now you can see you have a major 3rd interval and 2 minor 3rd intervals stacked. And then root to 5th is still a perfect 5th. Root to this 7th is a flat 7, so it's a minor 7th interval. And again, you can just look at it as a major triad in close position and then adding this time the minor 7th. Then you can just take this through the strings. Once you hit that next set of strings, this flat 7 moved up half a step because you're hitting the second string with it. Then the next set of strings, the 5th moved up because you're hitting the second string. And then it's just the exact same concept. Again, you're just taking a major triad in close position and adding the flat 7. Next one is the minor 7th, and we're going to take the flat 3, the 5, and the flat 7, move them to adjacent strings. This is a minor 7th, a close position minor 7th chord in root position starting on the 6th string. And a minor 7th, you can see, has a minor 3rd interval, major 3rd interval, minor 3rd interval. That's what you stack. And still root to perfect 5th, and then root to minor 7th going to the 7th. The only difference between this and the dominant is that you have the minor 3rd instead of the major 3rd, so this is a minor chord. And again with this you can see that it's just a minor triad in close position and adding that minor 7th. And then you can go through the strings, you just end up doing the exact same thing we did with the other chords. Next one is a minor 7 flat 5. We're just going to take the flat 3, flat 5, and flat 7, move those to adjacent strings. You end up with this shape. This is close position minor 7 flat 5 in root position starting on the 6th string. And the minor 7 flat 5 you can see is a minor 3rd interval stacked with another minor 3rd interval and then a major 3rd interval. And you have root to diminished 5th this time and root to minor 7th. And then again it's just a diminished triad and adding the minor 7th in. That gives you a minor 7 flat 5. And this is a pretty difficult stretch. A lot of people aren't going to stretch this because you're skipping a fret here and you're skipping a fret here, so that's a big stretch. So if you're trying to play it and it's really hard, I would recommend just not playing it. You can try it again later down the road when your hands are more flexible and you've been playing a lot longer. And then again you can just take this through all the string sets. Once you hit the second string, whatever notes on the second string moves up, and that's what you get through all the string sets. And the last one is the diminished 7th. And this time we're taking the flat 3, the flat 5, and the double flat 7, moving them to adjacent strings. And this one, for a lot of people, is pretty much impossible. You'd have to have pretty long fingers or really, really good stretch in your hands to be able to reach this. So I wouldn't even recommend necessarily trying this one, because as you can see, you're skipping frets each time. So that's a huge stretch if you're actually holding your guitar. It looks closer than it actually is on this diagram, but if you're looking at your guitar, that's a really big stretch. And you can see with the diminished 7th interval, it's just stacking all minor 3rd intervals, and that's because diminished 7th is a symmetrical chord. The distance between all the notes is a minor 3rd interval. And now you have root to that diminished 5th, and this time a root to a diminished 7th, which is a double flat 7, and technically it's just a 6th. But when you're talking about a diminished 7th chord, you're going to call it a double flat 7. Then you can take that through all the string sets, move up the double flat 7 on the next set of strings because it's hitting the second string. Then the next set of strings move up the flat 5 because it hits the second string. And again, just like all the other ones, you just have the basic triad. You have the diminished triad again with this, but unlike the minor 7 flat 5, minor 7 flat 5 added the flat 7. The diminished 7th adds the double flat 7. And I'm not going to go through the inversions of all these because I think at this point you should be able to figure that out. But also they're all in the e-guide, so you can just look it up as well. And I just don't want to make this lesson any longer than it has to be. But it's just the exact same concept as with the triads. Root always goes to the 3, 3 always goes to the 5, 5 always goes to the 7, and 7 always goes back to the root. But I think you probably know that at this point if you've been going through all these lessons. So those are close position 7th chords. Like I said, a lot of them are pretty impossible to play for most players, so don't even try if it's too big of a stretch for you. But they are important to be able to visualize, and don't worry about memorizing them or anything right now. They're all in the e-guide, so you can always look them up. So be sure to download that and keep that as a reference. And move on to the next lesson where I'm going to show you drop 2 7th chords, which are very common and very useful chord grips that you can use to play 7th chords. So unlike close position, which a lot of them are really hard to play or impossible, these drop 2 chords are really useful, a lot easier to play, and they're very common and you can get a lot of mileage out of them. So go ahead and move on to that lesson and learn about those. And be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day.